bugger. Well, good morning everybody. This is the next project. So this is a Bobcat T200 and it's got kind of a strange situation here where they're putting bushings in. This one fit fine. This one, I don't know why it's got one smoke. Maybe this one didn't get greased, but there's the bushing supposed to go in that hole. So I don't normally like to bore just one hole. I'm concerned with keeping everything in line with each other, but on this one, they fit their pins and bushings quite loose to start with, so there's a fair amount of forgiveness in them. And then they're quite a ways apart, unlike an excavator bucket where they're close together. So we're going to go ahead and just weld and bore one, but what I want to try doing is something I haven't done before. Seeing as they've already got the bushing in this hole, we know where it's at, it's tight. I'm going to be using my shop-built boring rig on this. So that's got 1.25" boring bar. And what I intend to do is machine myself a sleeve that goes in here that sleeves down to the diameter of my 1/4" boring bar so that I can stick it through here and know where that falls over here. That's what I'm going to use to align on that end, and then on this end, in all honesty, I probably, you know, depending on how tight I get that, it may just stand out there and I go ahead and weld it up. But that's my plan, is to actually align completely off from this side, because the real concern is, are those two bores dead in line with each other? So anyways, we're going to get at it and get stuff rocking and rolling here and bring you along for the fun. All right, time to clean up the hole. All right, ready for some welding action. All right, we're running this with the solid wire today. Too small of a hole for running the big wire, and I don't really need that kind of build-up action, so we'll have at this and see what we can do. Alright, so we are spinning ourselves up this bushing. Alright. Alright, there we are. Thanks to Jim out in California. Sent me a bunch of odds and ends here a while back that were from his dad's 10AA. One of the things that was in there was this shop made stop, which I didn't have any stop for, so thank you again. That's very much appreciated. So this had been bored out to a larger size for some previous project, but apparently not quite to the depth that I just went to, so that's why you heard it change pitch there. Now, I'm going to do a little ciphering here and see where we're at. Alright, we got close to 150 thou to go, so. Alright, there's 50 on a side. See what she thinks of that. Picked up a chip. That's the booger with stringy material boring. Ugly. You can't get it to break chips. It really gets nasty. Keep widening up chips. Man. bugger. Man. Just cannot get it to stop that bull crap. We've got 26 thou to go, so we'll take 20. 10 on a side. See what that gets us. Take the spring pass here. .43, but we're so hot. I think we'll take another spring pass now that we've cooled it off, because that shrank it. And then we'll see where we're at. Should be. Alright. That's it. Now, we're going to come in here and do a little bit of parting action, I believe. Just got to decide which one of these I want to use to do it with. Put this thing in the back here now. Move the staff down. Lock the carriage. That's where I mostly use it. Let's back this up. Alright, there we have it. One alignment bushing. I think we are going to quick stick it back in here and just clean the end of it up a little bit. I'm thinking about it. Alright, we're going to go ahead and throw the boring wire ends. That parting tool left a pretty big burr on the inside. That's the one that I'm really objecting to. Alright, now we're done. Interesting, it's a little snugger of a fit from what I actually thought I was creating, but it's alright, we live with that. Now this bar isn't actually quite long enough. I got a little more play on the outside than what I wanted. This will let me do what I had in mind, which is to, I can play with it and see where I'm lining up inside of this hole. And I've got this, the outside of that thing is actually really close to the same fit as the pin itself is, so it gives me a pretty good visualization of how much misalignment it can tolerate. But I think what we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and go find a longer piece, 1.25 inches. I got to figure out if I've got a chunk in between. I've got an 8-foot bar. I thought I had made a 6-footer, but I got to see if I can find it. Alright, I've got my adapter bushing thingamabob on here. I found a longer piece that I have not machined yet, but for our purposes it'll work. Got a suspicion we may not get through here all the way. Yeah. So what do we got here? bottom. Well, that might have done it. There was a loose BB laying in there. Alright, we're hitting some goobers on the top side. Slide that back. I'm going to get my guide grainer out. And we're going to go to work in there on some of these goobers. This is what is such a pain about small borers. Like this, you know, it's 1/8 inch wall bushing. So I'm trying to build it up. The difference between the OD of that bushing, let's see here. I got about 1/4 inch on the side. I can't have any more build up than that. Alright, see if the bar fits through now. Well, something's a lot better. So I got a few goobers up that way I got to deal with. The thing that's looking a little bit scary, and this is where... So it's not that uncommon for these arms to be tweaked a bit. I'm just beating and pounding over time, but then remember, these are big fabrications. And there's always stress in those. So they weld them all up, ship them out at the factory. But especially as the bushings get loose, there's nothing that's forcing it to stay where it was. So when you, this is a big reason why I really don't like doing one bore. It looks to me like these aren't very well in line with each other to start with, I guess is what I'm hinting at. I think I'm going to end up, well, I say that. It might be. Alright, so my battery died mid-sentence there. But I've been in here and added some more weld in here, ground off the high spot, so I've got enough play around there to let me get this thing lined up and get some bearings tacked on. So that's what we're working on now, is just getting a bearing or two in here. Right now what I've got in mind is I'm going to get that bearing tacked in place, and then I'm going to go get my 8-foot boring bar. And we're going to set this thing up with the 8-foot boring bar then, once this is in place. And what I'll do is right now that sleeve I've got, you know, is a pretty tight fit on the bar. Once I've got this bearing in, I'm going to take that sleeve and hone it to be a slip fit, so that I can slide my 8-foot bar through, being supported by this bearing, which right now I want it as tight as I can get it to line me. But then that'll be supported, that bearing, and let me mount my boring head off over here and be high level of confidence that we're actually all lined up right. So that's what we're up to. So I realize that this is not optimum. The only way to really nail it and know that this stuff is all genuinely in line with each other perfectly is to bore both of them together. You know, hanging out here 3 feet off from a guide bushing, admittedly, is not perfection here. But for what it is, it will be good enough, and it's how they brought it to me. They already had that bushing stuffed in the hole and said fix this hole. So normally I won't bore just one hole, but on, you know, big equipment, big excavators and stuff, they'll start ripping themselves apart. If this one, you know, is a little snug one direction or the other, it's not going to self-destruct. This small equipment is flexible enough, for lack of a better term, that it won't be an issue with that. So not quite right yet. I can tell by the feel of it. Let's get a better idea. We're gonna snug this but leave it loose-ish, and then we can bump it around. All right, I think we've about got this thing ready to bore. Used this lineup sleeve in that end there with my 8-foot boring bar after I got this bearing on to reach through and get this bearing assembly lined up in the head, and then pulled that because I'm just using the short bar for the cutting, so I don't have to worry about dealing with the other end of that bar out there flapping away. So anyway, we're about ready to try our first cut through here and see how she goes. Taking a pretty heavy cut because I'm didn't shorten up my tool enough on the back side, so we're just letting it loose. Hogging along pretty good here. Doing pretty well. We've got a really stiff setup with this kind of amount here, so she's holding up to the load really well. Over here you can see the bar is barely clearing the top edge of the hole. She's going to be exciting there. Tool stick out right now is 190 thousandths. We're probably only clearing the bar on that spot by 30. So when we get up there, we're going to have 160 thousandths depth to cut, which is a heck of a cut on an 1.25 inch bar. So I like to say, if it destroys the tool, I won't be shocked. But we just make it through. It's a, I don't know, $7 tool. If it destroys it, but it gets through the hole, it was money well spent. By golly, she made it through. Look at the depth of cut there. It's a lot to ask of a little 3/8 shank tool. It did it. I'm proud of you, baby. You done her. Alright, so I've sharpened my tool again, reset it. Should be about 30 thousandths depth of cut here. Alright, let's give her a whirl. Alright, got some nasty little cavities in the backside. We got about 25 on a side to go, and those cavities aren't going to clean up. So we're going to do some welding, give this thing a fix-up job. I think what I'm actually going to try and do is get that one up on the top side first. That's the hands down the worst one to get at. The problem with such tiny holes is that on a bigger hole, I tend to go, pretty crazy with, if I think there's a chance, put more welding. Well, this one, the clearance between the bar and the bore when getting welded up, so like I had to die grind a bunch of the high spots out before I could even get the bar through there. So you don't want to go just crazy welding because you're likely to have to cut it all back out of there just to get your bar through. So then the trade-off is that then all of a sudden you're dealing with this where, oh, guess what? Didn't clean up. Find any wheels?
No.
Then I don't know where they are. And you're probably just going to have to drill it and bolt it. Okay. Time to try cutting through our weld collection.
Doing it at low speed is pretty fast.
Cutting my weld now. You kidding me? It looks like I missed the spot that I actually needed to hit. Daggone it. See what it looks like after we get through there. Alright, well, she's carving through what I believe is my last touch-up round. I missed a couple of spots, so I went back in, hit them again, and now hopefully this will be it. Tool's holding up good. We got the last of the voids. So, trying to do a little ciphering here. What we're going to...
Where did you get all those nuts and bolts?
Oh, bought them and saved them from other projects, all kinds of crazy stuff. So we got 54 thousandths to go. Now, here's the big bad question. Can I get in here with my adjusting tool? This is always a problem with the small bar setups. It frequently is a severe lack of access, but I think we can do her. Alright, tool is reset. We're ready to try. Skimming through there again. Alright, well, we got her. You can see a few little, I don't know, some minor voids right in the middle. I don't really care about them, especially in the center. There happens to be a grease groove in that thing right around the middle, so... Anyway, it's really tough to reach down into the middle of a hole this tiny. So, anyway, right now, per my measuring, I'm about 2 thou under what I want to be at. But these small holes, you know, your window is tiny. On a big bushing, you know, like say you're doing a 450, you run an 8 thou press on one of those. If you miss your bore dimension by even a thousandth, you don't care. An extra thou, you hone it, and a thou less press, 7 thou versus 8, don't make any difference. But when you're down on a bore this size, where I'm shooting for a thou per inch of press, I'm only putting 2 thou press fit on this bushing, and all of a sudden that starts to be a problem if you miss that number by a thou. You lost half your press. So generally, I hold to the tight side and hone to finish if I at all can on these tiny ones. So anyway, we're going to set up and get her busted off in here and get her put together. All right. See what that did. Sun and rigid hones are absolutely amazing. I was showing a fair amount of taper in the hole. I'm not quite sure why, but we are slowly taking that out of it. This one, the stones are about shot, but I keep running them because technically this hole's way on the bottom end of the capacity for this hone. And by cheating and using mostly wore out stones that'll fit in a smaller hole. These stones are worn on a bit of a taper, but I'm using that to my advantage here. Because I know my hole has a taper in it, I'm running the big end of the stone and what's the small end on my bore. So yeah, we ended up within half a thou in down. Okay, well, let's see if we can swat us a bushing home. 2 thou, or not 2 thou, 2 thousandths total, thou per inch worth of press is not much, so. Alright, I gotta find something the right diameter to drive it below the surface with. We'll bring you back when we get it figured out. Once I get it below the surface, then I can haul up and go to whaling on it. We're getting there. Time to see if we over squished it. Nope. Got the proper amount of rattle. Really needs to drive over a little bit more. Not quite centered up yet. That ought to do it. Alright. Well, boys, girls, ladies, gentlemen, I believe we are done. There she is. I'll try and figure out how many hours I had in this and what this cost. Maybe we'll add that as a line at the end just for all your curiosity's sake. But she's ready to go. I'm going to call the customer and tell them they can come get it, and we're done for the weekend. So catch you later.